They say family is forever, but some scars are carved by the hands of those who claim to love you most. I used to think I could endure anything as long as I kept my head down, stayed useful, and never asked for too much. That illusion shattered the night my own sister screamed at me across the dinner table, her voice loud enough for our guests to hear. "You're nothing but a parasite, Claire, living here for free, contributing nothing. You should be grateful we haven't kicked you out already." She said it with a glass of wine in her hand, a silk dress on her body, and a crowd of nodding heads behind her. I stood there holding a tray of empty dishes I had just cleared from the table. My cheeks burned not just from the humiliation, but from the way my father looked away, refusing to meet my eyes. That was 3 weeks ago. Today, she's getting married. Emily Bennett, the golden child, the darling of the town, is marrying the mayor's son in a wedding fit for royalty. Everyone important is attending, everyone except me. I wasn't invited. After all, what place does the unpaid housekeeper have at a high society wedding? But that's okay, because I've been planning something far more important than an RSVP. They took everything from me, my dignity, my future, my sense of belonging, and today, I'm going to take back what they never had the right to claim. Not with violence, not with drama, but with truth. Cold, undeniable truth. It started with silence. I stopped responding to their orders. I stopped cleaning, cooking, managing appointments. I let the dust settle. I let the tension build. I watched them scramble, too used to the convenience of me to function without me. Then I disappeared. No note, no explanation, no warning, just gone. They panicked, of course, not because they missed me, but because no one knew how to run things in my absence. And still, I stayed quiet. Until today, the day my sister gets everything she ever wanted. The perfect husband, the perfect dress, the perfect ceremony. But what she doesn't know is that I'll be there too. And I won't be invisible this time. I won't be in the kitchen or hiding behind the scenes. I won't be serving guests or fixing problems. Today, I'll be the one they'll all be talking about. Because when the truth comes out, and it will, this wedding won't be remembered for its flowers or vows or cake. It will be remembered for something else entirely. And Emily, she'll remember it for the rest of her life, just like I remember every time she called me worthless. Let's see how worthless I look when the spotlight finally turns. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 29 years old. And until a few weeks ago, I lived in the same house I grew up in, a modest 2-story home on the edge of Brookside, a quiet town with just enough charm to hide its rotting core. I was born to Thomas Bennett and his first wife, Margaret. She passed away from cancer when I was 8, and within a year my father married Vivian, a woman with a sharp tongue, sharper instincts, and a daughter of her own named Emily. Emily was 10 when she moved in. I remember her looking at me like I was a stray cat that had been allowed inside the house. That look never changed. From day one, the lines were clear. Emily was the star, and I was the shadow. My father adored her. Maybe because she reminded him of his new wife. Maybe because she was louder, prettier, more demanding. Whatever the reason, I learned early that asking for attention or fairness got me nowhere. So I adapted. I stayed quiet. I helped where I could. I worked hard in school, kept my head down, and tried not to make waves. While Emily went to summer camps and art classes, I helped clean the house. When she threw tantrums, I was the one sent to apologize on her behalf. By the time we were teenagers, she was already being groomed to be someone. I was being reminded I was lucky to have a roof over my head. After high school, Emily left for college with a car, a full bank account, and my father's blessing. I stayed behind to take care of him when he had his first heart scare. That was the start of my invisible adulthood. Vivian decided it made financial sense for me to stay home. "It's not like you have career ambitions," she'd said. I ended up doing everything from managing bills to cooking meals to organizing doctor visits. I started tutoring kids online to make some money, but I never had enough to move out. Every time I brought it up, the conversation ended the same. "Family doesn't charge rent," Vivian would say sweetly. But family also doesn't abandon responsibility. Responsibility meant everything no one else wanted to do. I handled house repairs, arranged Emily's bridal shower, even took care of her dog while she traveled. And through it all, no thank you, no appreciation, just expectation. The only time I saw my father speak up was when I turned 25 and mentioned applying for a job out of town. "What about us?" he'd asked. I didn't have an answer. I still don't know why I stayed so long. Maybe I believed that loyalty would eventually earn me love. Maybe I thought one day they'd see me not the helper, not the fallback, but the daughter, the sister. But that day never came. Instead, things got worse. When Emily got engaged to Nathan Charming, handsome son of the town's mayor, Vivian practically floated. It was her greatest achievement. The wedding planning became a full-time obsession. Of course, I was drafted as the unpaid assistant. I organized tasting menus, met with vendors, designed the table layouts, and even handwrote over 100 invitations. Emily barely looked up from her phone the whole time. Still, I thought maybe, just maybe, this would be my moment to be acknowledged. I thought wrong. One evening, as I cleared plates from yet another pre-wedding dinner, I heard Emily laughing in the living room. "Claire's basically staff," she said. "She's not even family. She's just there." I froze in the hallway. Vivian's voice followed, smooth and amused. "Well, she does what she's told. That's more than I can say for most people." My father said nothing. I walked back into the kitchen, hands shaking, stomach hollow. But I didn't cry. Not that night. Not after all these years. I just kept moving. That was the night I decided to stop waiting for them to change. They weren't going to. And I wasn't going to beg for crumbs anymore. I was done being useful. I was done being invisible. They'd built a life on my back and I let them. But now I was going to watch what happened when that foundation crumbled, and I wasn't going to lift a single finger to stop it. It happened 2 days before the wedding. I was in the storage room sorting out the decorations that had just been delivered when I heard their voices drifting from the kitchen. Vivian and Emily. They didn't know I was home, or maybe they didn't care. Either way, their words cut through the air like broken glass. "After the wedding, I want her gone," Emily said flatly. "She's not coming with us to the city, and she can't stay here." "It's embarrassing." "I agree," Vivian replied. "She's starting to make people ask questions, always lurking in the background. She's not part of this life, Emily. She never was. You already closed her account last week. She has no access to anything. She's not even listed on the guest list." "Good. I don't want her ruining the photos." The silence that followed was worse than the words. It was the silence of agreement, of mutual, comfortable cruelty. I stood there, gripping a box of fairy lights so tightly the cardboard bent. I couldn't feel my fingers, couldn't breathe. I waited until I heard footsteps going upstairs, then walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. Vivian looked surprised. "Oh, I thought you were out." I smiled. "Just finishing the last of the decorations." Emily didn't even look at me. "Try not to mess up the seating chart," she said. "We've got real guests to think about." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor of my room, surrounded by the evidence of my servitude checklists, invoices, seating plans, color swatches. Proof that I'd made this event possible. And in return, erasure. They'd erased me from their lives before the wedding even happened, like I was a phase, a tool, a placeholder. I opened my laptop and checked my bank account. Empty. Vivian had really done it. I was locked out of everything. The car was in Emily's name. The phone plan was theirs. Even the bedroom I slept in belonged to someone who wished I didn't exist. So I packed, quietly, efficiently. A single suitcase, my laptop, one photo of my mom. I waited until dawn, then wheeled my bag out the back door. No note, no goodbye. Just a final glance at the house I'd helped maintain for over a decade. As I stepped onto the sidewalk, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Weightless. Powerless, yes, but also unburdened. The truth had always been there. They didn't love me. They never did. And now I didn't have to pretend anymore. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have money. But I had something more important. I had the recording. I'd hit record on my phone the moment I realized they were talking about me. Their voices, their words, their intentions, all saved. And I had something else too, nothing left to lose. The streets were still wet from the night's rain as I rolled my suitcase toward the bus station. The early morning light made everything look washed out and tired, just like I felt. I had no destination in mind. I just needed to get out. Anywhere but here. My wallet had $37, and I was planning to stretch it as far as I could. I crossed the intersection at Maple and Fourth when I saw her. A woman in her 60s standing next to a dark green sedan on the side of the road. The hood was up, and she was peering inside with the frustrated expression of someone who had no idea what they were looking at. Her coat was damp at the shoulders, and her heels were entirely unsuited for the gravel roadside. Something in me paused. I could have walked past. I should have, but I didn't. Need help, I asked. She turned quickly, startled, then offered a small, polite smile. Yes, apparently. I pulled over because the car started making this horrible grinding noise and now it won't start. I set my suitcase upright and approached the car. Pop the hood again. She did. I leaned in, scanned the engine, and within a few minutes realized the belt had come loose. Not completely broken, but enough to shut things down. It's a belt issue, I said. I can probably fix it well enough to get you to a shop. She blinked. Really? You know cars. Just enough, I said. I didn't tell her that I'd kept the household cars running for years, never thanked, never paid. She watched as I used a hair tie from my wrist to hold part of the loose belt in place temporarily. You're incredibly calm, she said after a while. You don't seem like someone who just rolled a suitcase out of her life. I looked at her surprised. How do you? She shrugged. I know the look. You've had a very bad night. Or a very long one. I laughed once. Dry flat. Both. What's your name, Claire? Well, Claire, I'm Linda. Linda Monroe. She extended her hand and I shook it, surprised by the firmness of her grip. Where are you headed? She asked. Nowhere, I said honestly. That sounds like freedom or despair depending on the tone. It's a little of both. She nodded slowly. If you want, I can drop you somewhere. I'm supposed to meet my nephew soon, but I've got time. I hesitated. You sure? You just saved me a long wait for roadside assistance. I owe you. Let me buy you a coffee at least. We ended up in a tiny cafe near the old train station, sipping coffee out of mismatched mugs. She didn't press, but I found myself telling her things I hadn't said out loud in years. About the house, the wedding, the betrayal. She listened without interrupting. No pity, just a kind of quiet respect. When we finished, she pulled out a sleek black card and handed it to me. If you ever need a reference, she said, call me. I mean it. I looked down at the card. Linda Monroe. No title. Just a phone number and an email. Something about it felt important. I slipped it into my pocket, not knowing then how much it would change everything. The wedding was held at Brookside Manor, a sprawling estate on the edge of town known for its perfectly trimmed hedges, marble floors, and overpriced glamour. By noon, cars lined the cobblestone drive. The mayor's son was marrying the town's sweetheart, and everyone who mattered was there. Everyone except me. Emily had made sure of that. She had told people I moved away, found work out of state. A clean narrative. No mention of the unpaid labor. No sign of the sister who built the entire event and then vanished. I wasn't on the guest list. My name wasn't on the seating chart. As far as they were concerned, I didn't exist. But they were wrong. I arrived at 2:37 p.m. The ceremony had just ended, and the guests were filing into the reception hall for cocktails and stage photos. I stood at the edge of the parking lot watching from behind a flowering dogwood tree, my heart pounding. I had rehearsed this in my mind 100 times. But standing there in the borrowed dress and low heels, Linda had insisted I take from her spare closet, it felt surreal. Like I was watching someone else's revenge fantasy play out. And then Linda pulled up. Her car glided into the lot with understated elegance. She stepped out in a navy silk ensemble, her hair swept into a low chignon, and gave me a nod so subtle only I could see it. We walked in together. The security at the front barely glanced at her invitation. She didn't need one. People recognized her face. I followed in her shadow, silent, poised. Inside the room was everything I had planned. Ivory linens, golden centerpieces, twinkling fairy lights strung across the vaulted ceiling. A string quartet played in the corner, and waiters floated between guests with champagne flutes. My fingerprints were on every inch of this room, and yet not a single person here would have said my name. That was about to change. We reached the main ballroom where Emily stood near the stage, laughing too loudly, radiant in her custom-made gown. Vivian hovered nearby, nodding and preening. My father stood off to the side, hands clasped, eyes tired. Then Linda raised her voice. Not loud, just enough to silence the nearest conversations. "Excuse me. I believe you all forgot someone." All heads turned. Her presence alone commanded attention. Emily blinked, clearly unsure who Linda was. "I'm sorry, do we—" "Oh, we've met," Linda said smoothly. "Claire introduced us. She's the reason I made it here today. Quite literally. I was stranded on the side of the road when she stopped to help me. No hesitation, no questions, just kindness." A murmur spread through the room. Emily's face went pale. Vivian looked like someone had slapped her. My father took a small step forward, then stopped himself. "Claire," Linda said, turning to me, "would you mind stepping up?" I did. Slowly, deliberately. My heels clicked against the polished floor, and with each step the silence deepened. I met Emily's eyes. She looked as if she'd seen a ghost. "You're not supposed to be here," she hissed. "That's funny," I said softly. "Because I built this day. Every table, every flower, every second of this event, you made me create it. And then you erased me." Vivian recovered first. "Claire, let's not make a scene. This is a family event." "Family," I repeated. Interesting word coming from someone who called me a parasite. Several people gasped. "That's not true," Emily snapped. "We never—" I reached into my purse and tapped my phone. Her voice filled the room, clear and cruel. "She's not coming with us to the city. It's embarrassing. She's not part of this life." Vivian's voice followed, equally sharp. "She never was." My hand shook slightly as I held the phone aloft, but I didn't stop it. I let every last word play. When it ended, the room was still. Emily opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Linda stepped beside me. "This is who they are," she said, her voice low but firm. "And now you all know it." Silence doesn't usually last long at a wedding, but this one stretched. The kind of silence that feels sharp, like everyone's breath had been sucked out of the room. Emily looked around as if someone would come save her, but no one moved. The guests who had been laughing moments ago were now staring, eyes flicking between her, Vivian, and me. A few whispered behind champagne glasses. My father remained frozen, but I saw something in his face, maybe shame, maybe recognition. But he didn't speak. Vivian, ever the strategist, stepped forward. Voice honey sweet. "Let's not blow this out of proportion." Claire's always been dramatic. This was taken out of context. Linda turned her gaze on Vivian, and the shift in the room was immediate. Linda's presence carried weight, authority that didn't require shouting. Out of context, she asked with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "So calling your stepdaughter a parasite is somehow better when explained." Vivian stiffened. Emily snapped. "Why are you even here?" She spat. "You're not family, you're just some random woman." Claire picked up. Linda's laugh was soft, elegant, deadly. "Is that what you think? A random woman?" She turned to the room. "Since introductions seem necessary, my name is Linda Monroe. I'm Nathan's godmother and legal trustee of the Monroe Foundation, one of the primary sponsors of Nathan's family's political campaigns." The temperature in the room dropped. Linda continued, calm and precise. "I was on my way to this very wedding when I met Claire. She helped me without knowing who I was, with no agenda. She gave up her time, her comfort, and even her safety to make sure I was okay. She didn't ask for anything in return." Nathan, Emily's fiancé, had been standing in stunned silence until now. His voice was low. "You knew each other before today." "We had a conversation," Linda said. "A real one. Unlike what seems to happen in this family." He looked at Emily, frowning. "You told me Claire couldn't be here because she moved away." "She did." Emily lied quickly. "She wanted space. You know how she gets." Nathan's brows pulled together. "She just said you cut her off, that you locked her out." "Is that true?" Emily didn't answer fast enough. Nathan's face shifted. "I asked you 100 times if your sister was okay. You said she was fine." "She is," Vivian interrupted. "This is all just a misunderstanding." Linda stepped between them. "No, Vivian, this is a revelation about who you are, about what you did." Her eyes scanned the crowd. Every inch of this wedding was Claire's work. She designed it, built it, managed it. She held your family together for years, and you discarded her like garbage. Well, not anymore. Emily's voice rose. You can't do this. You're not in charge here. Actually, Linda said, pulling out her phone. I am. As trustee, I have veto rights on all Monroe Foundation partnerships and sponsorships. If this wedding goes forward without accountability, I'll be pulling our name from every contract tied to Nathan's father's next campaign. The press release is ready. The room erupted in murmurs. Nathan's face blanched. Linda, wait, don't plead with me, she said calmly. Talk to your fiancée. Ask her why she lied. Ask her why she thinks cruelty is acceptable when no one's watching. He turned to Emily. Did you say all that? Did you really try to erase your own sister? Emily opened her mouth then closed it. The air was thick with tension. She tried to reach for his hand, but he stepped back. I need air, he said and left the ballroom. Guests followed awkwardly muttering excuses. Within minutes, more than half the room had cleared. The music stopped. The waiter stood uncertainly. Vivian looked like a statue, and my father finally moved toward me. Claire, he began, his voice raspy. I didn't know. You didn't want to know, I said. You watched it happen. You let them do it. I'm sorry. It sounded small, too small. Linda stepped forward again, voice rising just enough. I have one more thing to say. Everyone turned to her again. This woman, she pointed at me, is no longer invisible. If any of you have any decency, you'll apologize. Not with words, with actions. Claire doesn't need your pity. She needs what was always hers, recognition. She looked at me. Would you like to say something? I nodded. I stepped onto the small platform meant for toasts. My voice was steady. I was never supposed to be part of this celebration. Not because I didn't want to be, but because my family decided I wasn't worthy. They used me, mocked me, erased me. And for years I let them. I thought if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, loved deeply enough, they'd see me. I paused. They never did. But I see me now, and so do all of you. The applause started slowly, just Linda at first, then a few guests, then more, and then it was thunderous. I stepped down not triumphant, but whole. For the first time in my life, I had nothing to prove. After my speech, there was no going back. The applause died down eventually, but the weight of what had been said lingered like perfume in the air, subtle, yet undeniable. Vivian looked like a woman trying to claw her way out of a collapsing wall. She turned toward Linda with a face full of artificial calm. I think we all just need to take a breath and remember what today is supposed to be about. This is Emily's wedding. Let's not lose sight of that. Linda tilted her head. Her smile returned, but now it was pure steel. No one has forgotten what today is about, Vivian. But it's not just about florals and champagne. It's about character. And that's exactly what we've been shown today. Loud and clear. Emily was still standing near the floral arch, gripping the edge of the table, as if she could steady herself with sheer willpower. Her makeup had started to smear at the corners of her eyes, and her once glorious expression had collapsed into a mask of fury. You're ruining everything, she whispered. No, I replied softly. I'm simply revealing it. A sharp crack echoed from behind me. Someone had dropped a wine glass on the marble floor. No one even looked. All eyes were fixed on the spectacle unraveling in the center of the room. Then Nathan returned. His jacket was gone, his tie loosened, and there was a look on his face that told everyone in the room his decision had already been made. The wedding's off, he said. Just like that. No build-up, no apology. Just a clean surgical cut. Gasps rippled through the guests like a breeze. Emily stepped toward him, stunned. You don't mean that. This is just stress. You're upset. You don't mean I do, he said. You lied to me. About your sister. About your family. I don't want to build a life on lies. Her mouth opened, but he didn't wait for her to speak again. He turned to Linda. Thank you for making sure I saw what I needed to see. Linda only nodded. Her work for now was done. One by one, guests began leaving. Some offered me kind looks, a few murmured words of support. Others just fled the tension. Within half an hour, the ballroom was nearly empty. The band was packing up. The caterers whispered in corners. Vivian tried once more to salvage what was left. "You've embarrassed us," she said to me, voice low and trembling. "You'll regret this." I looked at her. "No, I regret wasting my 20s hoping you'd ever love me like a daughter." My father stepped forward then. His eyes met mine for the first time in years without shame clouding them. "Claire," he said quietly, "I should have spoken up. I should have protected you. You didn't. I said not cruelly, just factually. And now all of you get to live with what you chose." I turned to walk away and Linda joined me. Together we stepped out of the ballroom and into the sunlight. It was almost cruel how beautiful the day had turned out to be. Warm, golden, breezy. She paused by her car. "You know, she said I've spent my life around powerful people. But I don't think I've seen anyone command a room like you just did." I gave her a tired smile. I wasn't trying to command anything. That's why it worked. She opened the passenger door for me. "Come on, let's go somewhere quiet. I think you've earned a little peace." And just like that, I left my family behind. Not in anger, not in vengeance, but in liberation. They wanted me gone. Now they get to see what that really meant. Because without me, they weren't just missing a helper. They were missing the only person who ever held them together. 6 months later, I no longer lived in Brookside. The town that once held my silence now held my absence. And it was better that way. I rented a small apartment 3 towns over with peeling paint on the windowsills and a secondhand sofa that smelled like lavender and dust. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I worked as a program coordinator for the Monroe Foundation. Now Linda had offered the job the day after the wedding collapsed. "We need people like you," she'd said. "People who understand what it feels like to be erased and choose to come back anyway." At first I hesitated. Was I really the kind of person who could help others after being so broken? But the truth was I wasn't broken. I had just been silenced for so long, I forgot I had a voice. Now I used it every day. My blog, The Invisible Daughter, gained quiet momentum. I wrote about my story, not the wedding, not the drama, but the years of unpaid labor, emotional neglect, and the way we're taught that endurance is a virtue. Women reached out. Some were my age. Some were older. A few had been carrying stories heavier than mine for decades. And somehow they trusted me, because I had spoken first. Emily never contacted me. She moved to the city for a while, then disappeared from the headlines. Vivian faced legal scrutiny after I pressed charges for financial manipulation. My name had been used to open credit accounts without consent. She paid a settlement and faded into social invisibility. My father sent one letter, just one. It came in a cream envelope with no return address. The handwriting was shaky. He wrote, "I hope someday you'll let me try again. If not, I understand." I never responded. Some silences are necessary. Linda became my mentor, and maybe something more than that, a presence in my life that I had long given up hoping for. Not a replacement for my mother, but a reminder that there are women who lead with strength and softness at once. One Saturday afternoon, we met at a quiet coffee shop off the main road. She brought a small plant as a housewarming gift, succulent, low-maintenance, vibrant. "It's hard to kill," she said. "Like you?" I laughed. It felt good, natural. She leaned forward. "Do you ever miss them?" I thought about it. The house, the history, the hope that used to bloom like stubborn weeds no matter how many times it got trampled. "No," I said finally, "but I miss who I thought they were." She nodded. That's honest. I looked out the window at a world that had kept spinning long after I'd stepped away from everything familiar. You know, I said for a long time I thought I had to earn love, that if I just worked hard enough, stayed small enough, someone would choose me. And now I know I get to choose myself. The sun warmed the side of my face. I reached for my coffee content in the quiet. I had no dramatic triumph to post online, no ribbon-cutting ceremony to prove I'd made it. But I had peace, and that finally was enough.